Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever, where today I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, and my friend, the Duelist. He's another FAF caster, and today we're going to be casting a game, a 2v2 played on Sundragon Temple. How's it going, Duelist?
Going well, man. I'm super pumped to be here, and I'm really excited to see this game kick off. We got a great one on the cards for you guys. We'll go ahead and get into introducing the players here. So we'll start with Team 1 up here at the top. In the lovely red, playing UEF and going first land, we have Freshie himself. He is going to be playing in the kind of naval/air slot on this particular map. His teammate down to his south is going to be the Wreck. We all know who this guy is. He's been around the scene for a really long time. Going for Cybrant, he's going first land. Flipping over to Team 2. In his mirror, we're going to be looking at Talia. He is going Seraphim, opening first land. Lovely stuff the way that those Seraphim actually put up their ACUs. It just looks like a thing of art. And then last but not least, we have Magnetic, and he is going to be going Cybran, opening first land, already to work on the hydrocarbon. So Willow, as these guys are getting kicked off, I'm noticing there's a little bit of a rating disparity here. What would you expect to see kind of as an opening, and where would you expect to see forces deployed on this game?
I was just about to, I was on the same wavelength as you, man. I was thinking about the game quality percent up there in the top right. For anybody who doesn't know, the way game quality is determined is based off of your rating and the number of games you have played. So generally, a team with higher rating and more games played will massively debalance it and change your quality rating. Good rule of thumb, 90% and above is a well-balanced game. 90% and below is a relatively unbalanced game. Looking at this from the perspective of rating right now, we can't, of course, see how many games they've played. But looking at it from rating, this is a team matchmaker game, so we have specific ratings. We can see about a... let's see, that would be what? 500 rating advantage for the top team with Freshie and the Wreck. Basically what that means is these players have, if you were in another game like a MOBA or something, 500 rating is pretty much an entire league. So if Magnetic and Thalia were platinum players, then Freshie and the Wreck would be diamond players. So there's a massive advantage over to the team at the top, but rating isn't everything, and it's about how you play the map. In looking at this map, there's not a lot of reclaim, so that is a mechanic that's more abused by higher rated players. So I don't assume that the higher rated players are going to have that much of an advantage as compared to a map with a lot of reclaim, such as having trouble. Badlands has a lot of reclaim, and that's in the 2v2 team matchmaker pool right now. And in general, as far as strategies go, I would like to see the lower rated team be aggressive and actually just try and go out there and get things done. I think the worst thing you can do when you're a lower rated player is try and stay back and play more defensively, because higher rated players will abuse that. The more aggressive you play, almost the better, but it needs to be controlled aggression. And seems we have a bomber going on out from top team. The Freshie, it's actually out from the Wreck, I believe, and gonna be getting some engineers, I believe.
Yeah, he'll be able to pick off a couple of engineers, but looks like Talia is pretty quick to respond. Does bag an engineer though with that last set of bombs. And in the same vein, like you were just talking about, Willow, where you want to get out on the map and get things done, we're actually seeing Magnetic do just that, being the first one to drop that northern island, getting a couple of land factories set up. So putting 4 engineers down, second land factory going up, third one queued, as well as a T1 mass extractor. We do have some air forces tangling up top as well. But I'm looking at Magnetic, and he's doing a much better job of, I think, reaching for the further mass extraction points and getting forward bases set up and then filling in the blanks later. Whereas Freshie is doing kind of the opposite and is expanding out a little bit more gradually. His drop is just now kicking off and heading out to the northern island.
Yeah, and with this... what was that?
No, go ahead.
And with this map in particular, the way that expanding works on maps where you're using transports, it's heavily based around how quickly you can get your transport out. I did see that a bomber was built out from Freshie, and that probably slowed down his transport quite a bit. And also, he went for naval factories earlier. He may have a naval advantage for a bit. We also see the Wreck going for a naval factory. So instead of getting those expansions out earlier for Freshie and the Wreck, they've decided to invest in the Navy, which is a more long-term play. But if it gets abused very early on, you're going to see them having trouble producing these naval units. Every single mass extractor counts on every single map. It only takes 3 T1 mass extractors to make the same amount of, or no, 2 T1 mass extractors to make, no, it's 3. 3 to make the same amount of mass as a T2 mass extractor, in fact, more. So you need a lot of mass to produce these naval units. They're expensive even at the T1 phase compared to every other type of unit to produce. And we will, of course, need to be seeing these players produce enough mass to make these units. Otherwise, these factories were a complete waste of time and effort. As we have a little bit of a duel kicking off here in the middle of the map, you want to go ahead and take over for that?
Yeah, it looks like Talia is pushing up with his comm, going to run into the Wreck. They're going to exchange some blows. Talia, of course, benefiting from a slightly tankier comm than the Wreck, and he deploys his spam to kind of counter the Wreck's spam and let the comms go mano-y-mano here in the middle. A couple of interceptors tangling over the top as well. Looks like the Wreck is going to be maintaining air control in the bottom half of the map for now. And Talia taking a little bit of a battering on his commander as these guys continue to duke it out. The spam up north, though, has cleaned up the Wreck spam, and he'll be bringing those tanks back to assist his comm in this kind of duel here. And up to the north, we're starting to see that dual naval factory, or not dual naval factory, but both players committing to the naval game really start to put pressure on Magnetic. Magnetic only just now getting into the water with 2 naval factories going up, comms building 1 and engineers building a second. And I think that the naval game is going to be, they're going to be hard pressed to catch up on that, with both players from the northern team committing to Navy hardcore. In the middle, we've got, go ahead, sorry.
You know, the name of the Cybern T1 frigate, it's called the Trident. And I can definitely see right now that Team Magnetic and Thalia is definitely getting poked by those 3 little prongs coming out of each of these frigates. They're coming out here and they're like, oh, that's a nice mass extractor. I was just talking about how important it is to get these T1 mass extractors. They are low cost, a low investment, and a huge reward to have a T1 mass extractor. It's literally, as long as it doesn't die, it's technically infinite return on investment. So it's funny because you can see that the bottom team has gone for the more expansionist route, but now they're losing that because the opposing team went for a longer term strategy and is now going to have naval control for the foreseeable future, which is big on a map with so much navy. And of course, it mostly threatens Magnetic. He's going to have a lot of trouble if these Tridents get in and start dealing damage to that original base of his. That's where you build up the core of your economy. And
absolutely, you could say you got a Poseidon Zeus combo going here. Poseidon with the Tridents, and then you got Thunderheads. So some quite electrifying little tines poking at Team 2 right now. But in the bottom, Talia in a little bit of trouble. Well, maybe not a little bit of trouble, but taking a beating from the Wreck, who his comm still looks real healthy. Using that additional range on his comm to kind of mop up the additional units that Talia is bringing in to support. But I think that this Navy is going to be a huge problem for team number 2, with a couple of one scuttle being queued up right now, trying to respond to these Thunderheads and Tridents that are so far poking at Magnetic's main base. And what could really be nasty is if we get some Governors or Destroyers in here with that extra range.
Yeah, and also I want to. So currently, of course, the Trident Poseidon, the Poseidon Zeus combo that we were talking about, with Poseidon's Trident and Zeus's lightning and thunder. It's definitely doing a number, of course, onto Magnetic. But I wanted to talk really quick about what's going on over on the mainland with that ground battle and talk about the two comms involved. So we have a Cybran and a Seraphim comm. You can see the Seraphim comm right now going for speed and range. Very unique to the Cybran, unfortunately, for the Cybran, is for them to go for speed and range, they give up the chance of getting T2 with their gun upgrade. Speed and range gives a significant amount of range and doubles the rate of fire for the main cannon on that ACU. ACUs are very important because they are the only unit in the game that did not cost you a single mass or power to create. So everything that a ACU kills is infinitely efficient compared to killing it with any other unit in the game. So that speed and range upgrade, of course, going to really help Thalia against the Wreck in this, and the Wreck needs to come up with some kind of solution to that because pure T1 spam is never going to stand up to a gun speed and range comm that has its own spam.
Well, in addition to that, it looks like he's getting double teamed to some extent here as Magnetic has brought some of his spam down from this northern base up at the end of that kind of peninsula. So he's going to have to deal with potentially 2 players land spam as well as a gun speed and range upgrade on that comm.
Indeed, and also I want to get your opinion on what's going on at the top with Freshy moving his comm up to that most northern, it's not really an island, but that landmass up in the north where there's all of those mexes that Magnetic expanded to very early. It does look like control is going to be lost up there, and I'm just kind of wondering what units do you think that Magnetic would need to build or get over there to try and defend against this comm. But of course, as I say that, the comm decides to leave. Peace out, caster curse and all.
So I think he recognized that there was a pretty significant force of T1, and even though this is a commander, they were about 18 Mantis and then artillery mixed in there as well. So even though the commander is a very powerful unit, it can be threatened if you've got enough forces, and I think that Magnetic had a critical mass there to pose enough of a threat. Speaking of posing threats, though, this naval pressure is not going anywhere soon. They've taken out a couple of the core mexes on Magnetic's island, taken out 2 mexes on this expansion island as well. So this double naval commitment is really coming back to hurt. It was really coming back to hurt T2, Team 2 here, as he's trying to get out some slivers, sorry, not silvers, to counter these frigates. So talk a little bit about naval counters, Willow, as far as torpedoes, deck guns. How does that all work?
All right, so talking about how to dig yourself out of the situation that's built here. So the lifeblood of any naval force, and it doesn't matter if it's Seraphim, Aeon, Cybran, or UEF, what is the most built naval unit? It's a frigate. You never stop building frigates. And there's a good reason for that. In surface engagement, frigates are kind of the determining factor. If you have a significantly larger amount of frigates, you will generally win a fight simply by messing up the pathfinding and all of the targeting of the opponent's T2 or higher level units. Right now, we're not at the T2 phase yet, so we're just talking about submarines versus frigates. Well, that one's an easy one to answer. Submarines win. Frigates can't shoot back. Frigates, for all of the technological marvels of the Forged Alliance universe with all of these giant robots and such, nobody has figured out quite how to put a torpedo launcher onto a frigate. So we're in a bit of a limbo state where at the moment Magnetic will eventually win this as long as he gets up a few more submarines. But those submarines have a very limited lifespan, and that lifespan is until somebody builds a destroyer. Destroyers will eat frigates up by the tens. One destroyer can easily kill like 7 or 8 submarines by itself. And believe it or not, you can actually micro against submarines. If you keep running away while submarines are chasing you, it helps the destroyer because that means there's less submarines firing consistently. Whereas the destroyer will almost always be firing consistently because it has higher range than the T1 submarines. So in general right now, Magnetic is making a heads-up play by building those submarines, but I would like to see Thalia try and get into this naval game and help dig Magnetic out of this situation he's in. Right now, Thalia is not super threatened by the Navy. Since it's all T1, he's not going to lose more than a couple mass extractors. But if Magnetic is kept out of this naval game for an extended period of time, then it's going to go heavily in the way of T2. And once you get T2, then you're going to be seeing Thalia losing a lot of mass extractors due to, well, even just a lot of people discount the Valiant class destroyer, which is the T2 destroyer for the UEF. It will still have enough range to kill all of the T2 mechs built up by Thalia currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the middle, we've got the Wreck has gotten his own gun upgrade as well. So, like you were talking about earlier, opting for increased firepower instead of the ability to build maybe a higher tech forward fire base. So, all-out aggression coming from the Wreck. And if we look at Thalia's forces, he does have Ilshivas out on the field. Ilshivas being kind of like a tier 2.5 almost, being able to slug it out with some Loyalists and Titans as well. So a little bit of a tech mismatch. And if you look at the Wreck's base, it doesn't look like he is gone for any T2 commitment just as yet on any of his land factories. So opting to go for spam instead. And he is mixing Medusas in. Medusas, of course, have that EMP kind of explosion, which will shut down units, and that'll be pretty invaluable to him. And his comm is up there overcharging. But if he continues to push off, I think teching, that's going to be a hard battle to win if Thalia can get a critical mass of Ilshivas going there in the middle. Checking in on... Yeah, so
go on.
Yeah, taking a look at just some of the other aspects of the game that I think we've overlooked for a second. The air player, or the air commitment. So we've talked a lot about Navy, talked a lot about land, but we do have Tier 2 air out from Freshie right now. He's building gunships. So gunships being great at dealing pretty high damage from air to land targets. And that could signify some real problems, I think, for team number 2. If we look at team 2, they're kind of scrambling for a T2 air upgrade right now. Or no, they're not scrambling for a T2 air upgrade right now. They have a T2 air upgrade right now. What am I saying? They're building a transport out of that factory. So we'll see if team number 2 uses their T2 air HQ to build any additional kind of air-to-air defenses, or uses it to crank more interceptors. But yeah, that could definitely be a thorn in their side. And we're actually seeing Stingers massing here for Freshie back behind the Rex comm. And looking at Thalia's mixture of forces, I'm not seeing any mobile anti-air, and I'm not seeing a large clump of interceptors for team number 2 either. I think that could also be... We have
Corsairs coming in for Wreck.
Corsairs coming in for the Wreck? Ah, so he has gone for T2 air instead of going for T2 land. So team 1 definitely looking for a snipe, I would say, on Thalia. It's definitely where they're posturing.
One second.
Looking at some nice overcharges here. Stingers end up coming in on Thalia. We've got Corsairs from Magnetic, so both players looking to snipe the other with air. Unfortunately, though, it looks like Team 1 has the interceptors to actually deal with these Corsairs, but not fast enough. The Ilshivas were able to do enough damage before the Wreck was able to respond fast enough. Does not look like these Stingers, though, were eliminated by... Stingers were not eliminated by the ACU explosion, though, so Thalia is still under threat from a Stinger. And there's a nice interceptor screen here from Freshie as well, making sure that no additional help can get to his ACU in the form of any interceptors to take out these Stingers. Now we're up to 4 Stingers, ticking down the HP, just tickling it away as he drops well into the yellow, down to 6,000 HP. Do we have any interceptors? We have interceptors for Magnetic. Let's see if they can break through this kind of interceptor screen that Freshy's put up and deal enough damage to deal with this. A lot of these interceptors are, of course, out of fuel, but 2 more Stingers come in. As Talia goes into the red. I don't think there is enough anti-air. Corsair comes over the top as well, just to add insult to injury. He's doing a good job dodging. And yeah, T2 Mobile AA shows up, deals with the Stingers, and deals with the Corsairs as well. And I think he might be in the clear at this point. That was a close shave. That was like a straight razor kind of shave.
There's Janus being built up by Freshy.
Very nice. 2 Janus on the way for Freshy right now. Janus, though, not being able to deal a whole lot of kind of alpha strike damage. They really spread their damage out. But if you get enough of them, there's T2 Flak as well. So I don't think that those Janus are going to pose too much of a threat.
Yeah, I agree. It was worth a thought, but of course you have that nano region upgrade, bringing the comm from, I can't remember the base region rate on the comm, and of course each rank of veterancy you get veterancy by, of course, killing off units, and their mass value, the amount of health you deal compared to their mass value is that's you. Basically, if you kill 100% of the health on a unit, then you get 100% of its mass value towards getting your next rank of veterancy. You can get 5 ranks of veterancy, increases health and health regeneration, and is very nice for the comm. And he's gotten nano repair on the comm, which has brought his total health regeneration up to 94 health a second, which means that every single second, 94 health is being just thrown onto this comm while he's taking damage. He's printing a new comm every single second, it feels, and it's very difficult to burn through that consistent health. It takes a lot of DPS or a lot of burst to deal with. Meanwhile,
this guy's doing his best Dragon Force impression, just walking through the fire and flames here.
Indeed. And we also, of course, have T2 Navy now out from Freshy. We see a governor that has been built.
I think you're very slightly ahead of me. It's just now coming off the line.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Faff engine, faff things, you know.
So, yeah, I mean, that makes it quite a bit difficult because I'm not sure what the people are seeing, but I'll try and keep up with that. That is, of course, unfortunate. I've had it at 0 speed the entire game, and
Same.
I don't know how it's managed to be different.
We do have Talia assaulting Freshy's base here. A couple of T1 PDs, though, will maybe cause him to think twice. Nope. I'll think a third time, and then decide to go back in. Corsairs are bombing him from the top, though.
Yeah. We can also, as far as I was just speaking about the Navy with those governor class cruisers, we can see that Magnetic has managed to get a grasp on the naval game, has multiple naval factories, isn't quite being pushed as hard by Freshy anymore, and is managing to pull back against this naval threat. And of course, with all of this aggressive pushing out from Thalia, we might see the mainland get taken over by Team 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how we kind of thought that this was a one-sided game, and it looks like that the players that were more highly rated seem to be on the back foot right now?
Well, we thought it was going to be a little bit more one-sided, but as I said, I wanted to see these players get aggressive, and them being aggressive, especially Thalia. Thalia has just been constantly throwing pressure, and Magnetic has been helping him out. Giving up the Navy was seemingly a strategic mastermind play as it's made it one-sided, just not in the way we've expected, in the fact that the lower-rated players have just absolutely dominated the land game, whereas the higher-rated players went for the naval play, and it just didn't work out. They never got that critical damage they needed to do in order to bring Team 2 to their knees, and the extra expansion out from Magnetic has allowed him to just keep up with Freshie, and the aggression out of Thalia has resulted in the wreck being ejected from the game quite early, actually.
I do see something, though, that can deal some damage to Team
Strat
2.
bombers?
Yeah, there's a Strat Bomber coming out right now for Freshie, and that boy is headed straight for Talia's comm. And Talia is not in a place where I think the water is accessible to him. I believe you're correct, and
those ambassadors are definitely sending a strong diplomatic message over to Team 2 at the moment.
And yeah, there's a second one on the way, I would imagine. Yep, second one on the way, 95% of the way done. And that's going to be really hard for Talia to deal with right now, because we look at Team 2's Air Force, it's comprised almost entirely of interceptors, which a Strat Bomber can outrun. So you can't exactly intercept it.
Not only that, they have less interceptors than Freshie. Freshie currently has more, I believe.
It is true. He is parking his interceptors, though, right over the mobile flak, so those numbers might get dwindled down a little bit. But I think he's looking to be more of a distraction than fight air. Yeah. He's got 1-2 Strat Bombers on Talia's comm right now, and Talia's comm is doing a great job of dodging, but he just went into the red there at 4,500 HP. That nano repair helping him stay in this game a lot longer. But there's not a great answer, though, for these ambassadors.
It's a much more difficult dance than dodging those T2 bombs. Dodging the T3 bombs, they have quite the area of effect. I don't think you can actually completely dodge all of the damage from a Strat Bomb. You're going to take a little every single pass.
Freshie is going to even up this game.
And
so now it is a 1v1. But Magnetic is also pushing on Navy. So I think Freshie, since he has been restricted to this kind of northern corner of the map, doesn't have access to as many mass extractors, doesn't have as much energy or available area to build power generators. Stumbling over my own words. And that's going to be, I think, a huge problem for him if he gets booted out of this naval game as well.
Yeah, without Navy, you're trying to rely on torp bombers, and torp bombers are... It takes 5 of them to kill a single cruiser, and at that, all 5 will, or you will lose some with the passive 5. So it's a very inefficient game to be playing if you're knocked out of the naval game, and it is definitely going to be a lot more difficult. Even looking at this from just the reclaim perspective, I brought it on very early. But throughout this game, Magnetic and Thalia have done an amazing game. In combination, have managed to grab themselves over 20,000 reclaim. Of course, Thalia dying a little bit lowers the number of reclaim that's still in use. But all of those structures that Thalia have been transferred over to Magnetic. So that's going to help them out a lot. And at the moment, the economic lead for Team 2 is just immense. At the very least, quadrupling the mass output of Freshie right now, and having even more reclaim than their opponents means that he doesn't even have the argument of, oh, well, his mass is bad, but he has reclaimed more so he can keep up. It just kind of feels like he's being suffocated out of the match at the moment.
Yeah, you said it. So I know that I have a lot of newer players that watch my channel. I would imagine you have quite a few newer players as well. But do buildings always transfer over? Is that a setting for 2v2 matchmaking? Is that something that normally happens?
So it's a setting called full share, and the way it works in custom lobbies is you can turn it on or off, and it does not affect whether a match is ranked or unranked. In the 2v2 team matchmaker, full share is always on, And another way you can tell if a game's 2v2 team matchmaker is the colors will always be red, yellow, blue, gray. I don't know where they came up with the yellow and gray colors, but that is up to the matchmaker, I guess. But full share is always on. And what full share means is whenever the commander dies, any units or structures under his control will be transferred over to the next highest scoring teammate. There's a system in the game called military score. It scores your economy and your military based off how much you've built, how much you've killed, a bunch of things. So basically, if you were in a 4v4 with full share on and a player dies, everything goes to the player who is currently performing the best in theory. So that way you are always giving the best chance of a team to recover from a player losing. Or from losing a player. In 2v2 team matchmaker, it's not quite so complicated because you, of course, have only one teammate. So if you die, there's only really one person who can take your stuff.
Yeah. And looking at how the game is developed, T3 Air was kind of a trump card here for Freshy for a while, allowed him to take out Talia, but Magnetic has now leveled the playing field there. He's up to T3 Air of his own, has got some T3 Air of his own. Cranked out a bunch of interceptors, really shut down some of the broadswords that Freshy was producing there. He has a couple more that are parked in his base, but from a production standpoint, Freshy is really starting to struggle, I think, as far as being able to produce. You can look up here at the mass income scoreboard, and he's only bringing in 75 mass per tick, and Magnetic is fluctuating all over the place. Of course, he's got access to all of this reclaim along the map. You can see he's got engineers out on attack move or patrol that automatically picks up these wrecks. And whenever you recycle those wrecks, it puts a lot of that mass back into your inventory. So it's a great way to augment the mass income that comes in from the mass extractors as well. And because he has map control, he's able to abuse that.
Also, if you go ahead and check on Freshy's economy itself by selecting Freshy off the scoreboard, you can see he's consistently stalling over 100 mass a second, which basically means that he's making 75 mass a second, but he's trying to spend almost 200.
Right. Yeah, and so whenever that happens, it's throwing his economy, everything just goes slower. Like, he can still queue up these shield generators, he can still produce these broadswords, but it all happens slower than it's supposed to.
Indeed, and it does look like the Navy forces out from Magnetic are going to be making their way towards that main island for Freshy.
Yep. Doesn't help that Freshy sent a couple of broadswords in. I think his back is a little bit against the wall here, but he sent some broadswords in against some 2 Siren-class cruisers from Magnetic, and they were able to mop up the gunships. Of course, gunships are cruisers having really good A&E aircraft, and I think that Freshy sees kind of the writing on the wall here and decides to bow out. But a great game. I really enjoyed watching it, and thank you so much, Willow, for all of your insightful commentary.
Indeed, it's been a blast casting with you, and unfortunately, the FAF client decided to frown upon us today. The FAF gods, they decided that we could not be at the same time code, making that a little bit more complicated than it needed to be. But yeah, overall, just looking at this game, I would say that that Team 2 has really just punched above their weight and played like better players than their rating described. They did a lot of very good moves. Everybody makes mistakes. Even if you go look at Nexus, he's going to be making some mistakes. And for people who don't know, Nexus is the highest rated player and the recent, well, not really all that recent anymore, but the last winner of Legends of the Stars, the biggest tournament in FAF. And just in general, it's the game, I feel, is heavily based around making the least mistakes. And that's true for most strategy games. If you make less mistakes than your opponent, then you will generally win. And the only mistake that was glaring to me out of Team 2 was Thalia moving the comm so far forward. He didn't really need to. He could have kept his comm back further and just let his units kill off the rest of the wreck space.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that you can really just boil down Forged Alliance Forever into like how to win at Forged Alliance Forever into a really simple sentence. Just don't mess up. If you mess up, you lose. If you don't mess up, you win, right?
Yeah, and there's a second thing you have to add to that, and this is true for pretty much every game as well. Other than don't mess up, you can also say more stuff better than less stuff. Have more stuff than your opponent, and by more stuff, I don't just mean have more quantitative, but both qualitative. You want to have more stuff, and you want to have more better stuff.
More better stuff. Love it.
Yeah. The more better movement. Everything just needs to be more better in my life. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about this match before we go ahead and close out this cast?
I think we've said all that we needed to say on the match. I will defer to you, my friend, to wrap things up.
All right. Thank you all for watching. If you want to check out the Duelist, there will be a link in the description. Or if you're on the Duelist channel and you want to check out me, I'm Willow's Duality on YouTube, and I'm sure there will be a link in the description. Other than that, subscribe, like, share it around, and have a wonderful day.